Hello, and we're live.
See? All right.
We're live.
We're live.
How are y'all doing today?
What's up, Min the Mather?
I'm here live from Beck's
We're
basement.
doing good now that we're talking. Yes.
Live from Beck's basement.
Yes. I'm Keenan, your host of Top to Bottom, and we address all of your sales issues from the top to the bottom. And I'm with my co-host, Becc. Becc, what did you think of Harvard?
When I went to school there, I thought it was great.
Is that where you got the H?
Uh-huh. The H is for Harvard and Holland. We're like two peas in a pod.
2 pods and a P.
2 pods and a P.
And in a moment, you're going to see the lovely Charlotte, who also went to Harvard. She's going to walk by 1 second now. Yes. Here she comes. She will say hi. Here she is. Say hi, the lovely
There's
Charlotte.
Charlotte.
Yeah, see, she's Harvard too.
We also went to Harvard.
Yes, yes.
Where did you go?
I went to the land of happy faces. Ava, everybody check out avakeenan.com. That's my plug. That's
Oh my
daughter.
goodness.
It's all her merch. It's all her merch. Go buy it. It'll save you money on all her ski equipment.
Okay, before we get further into this, let's move on to the first segment, which is
Email Teardown.
this is the segment where we tear down emails that were sent to Becc and Keenan. So let's get on with this.
We're doing this from a bus, in case people are wondering.
Yeah, we're doing this for
rolling
us.
bus. It's rolling. It's rolling down
We're
the street.
literally on a bus. Literally on a bus.
Wheel the bus
They're the
goes
bunks.
round and
They're
round.
the bunks. Right
round
there.
and round.
All right,
It's
here
Round
we
and
go.
round.
Unfortunately, our software does not allow for 2 people on the side. So here you're going to see a double of Becc and Keenan. But here's the first email. It's, hey, Keenan, saw that you were near Colorado, so I had to shoot you a message. We help management consulting businesses to better explain their services using storyboard animations. Mind if I send you some more info? Kind regards, Eric. I'm not going to pronounce your last name. Business development at Ranimation. Keenan, why
So I
don't you go
lost for a
first? What do you
second.
think about this?
I lost you for a second because the wheels of the bus are going round and out. Oh, Beck's pulling it up. But read the first part, the first sentence.
Yeah, for sure. Saw that you were near Colorado, so I had to shoot you a message.
Yeah, that's why I got on my nerves. Look, and then they asked me about random software development.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, look, you guys have seen a theme in this. We talked about this quite often. This person has no idea who I am, none whatsoever. And the mere fact that I'm Colorado is absolutely of irrelevance. There are 6 million people in the state of Colorado. So because you saw him in Colorado, somehow you felt that I had some software development needs, that's pathetic. Like, that's literally saying, hey, man, I realized you were Vietnamese. So I'd like to shoot you an email, see if you have time to talk about your gardening fucking chores or whatever. There's no relevance or connection between the fact that I live in Colorado and what you reached out. So it's bullshit. And once I sense bullshit, then I realize I don't trust you. If I don't trust you, I don't want to talk about anything. That's number one. Number two, I don't have any development needs. And they saw nothing within my organization that suggests I should. If you're going to create that type of correlation, you should say, hey, we noticed this, I know this, and generally speaking, these are types of problems that organizations like yours struggle with. If you're having an issue with these, I'd love to talk a little deeper how we might be able to solve them so you can avoid blah, blah, blah. But no, there was nothing of value or relevance in that entire email. Becc, take it away.
Is it the one sent? Who is it? Well, I can't ask who it was sent by. Was this sent to me or to him? I'm trying to see.
This was sent to Keenan. Let me pull it up again. Let me pull it up.
Here in Colorado. Hey, Keenan.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
in Colorado.
All right. I'm thinking.
Yeah, that one's tough.
Okay. So I don't get how well, I'll give 3 here. The first one is there's some grammar issues, like there's too many spaces between Keenan and the comma. So what I do like about this email, full disclosure, is that it's brief.
Yeah, I'll give him that.
It
Yes,
is
I'll give him
brief.
that.
It is brief.
So I got to read it really fast to realize I didn't want anything to do with it.
The second one is it says, hey, Keenan. I like hi, Keenan, meaning I would always try to err on the side of being 10% more formal in terms of respect for your prospect. But the third one here is, I saw that you were near Colorado, so I had to shoot you a message. So I just want to read this logistically. And this is a problem that I see a lot of people run into.
I think they froze. Let's see here. Let me text Becc. I know that y'all don't want to spend a podcast just listening to me, right? Well, in the meantime, just to explain what's going on, Becc and Keenan are currently on the road to Raleigh for the third stop of the Flip the Script tour. And they're trying to do the podcast in the middle of it all. So if you'll please excuse
The audio is recording.
Yeah, but did you think the audio is actually recording to the thing, or it's trying to record and has the same problem?
It could be both. So we better be.
And they're gone. Such a shame.
Oh, look at that. Just refresh.
Oh, we just refreshed. We're back.
Y'all are back?
Welcome to
beautiful.
October, baby.
Yes. Finish up the thought, Becc. You got 13 seconds.
Oh. Well, we were gonna talk crap, but then we thought it might be recorded. Keenan suggested that it's about you men. And
it's all about me. Hey, you already know. I'll make sure to fill in the time when y'all get off the screen or when the internet's kind of gets shaky. But the segment is over, which means.
Okay. In there.
Two. One of them, Patrick Foy said, found out about the Flip the Script tour and stopped Boston too late. How the fuck did you miss out, dude? That's all we've been talking about for weeks.
Weeks.
Cleary, you got to get on Facebook. I mean, LinkedIn more often. Want to follow our newsletters or something,
What's the next one? Buffering.
Buffering. Sorry, Ken Bryce. Ooh, excuse me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thanks for the Bernardo.
Bernardo Gonzalez.
He said it's normal when you're on the road. Thanks, Bernardo, for understanding. We
Yes.
are on a bus. There are 12 bunks right behind us.
We love you.
We are. This is our sleeping gear.
Yeah.
You know, we're living the road life right now on LinkedIn.
He stole my bunk, though.
I did not steal his bunk.
He stole my bunk.
Oh, men, don't even look at me. Men, based on the context that both of us are, who would you believe? Men,
I think I need both sides to this.
Oh, no, you don't. No, you don't.
Cold rank. That's all that happens. Cold rank. So
Keenan made me make his bed. I had to make his bed.
You had to make my bed because I made hers, and then she pulled rank, and I lost my bed.
To be fair, you didn't thoughtfully make my bed.
It was my bed.
You thought you were making your own bed, and then I had to make your bed.
Okay. While we still have good internet, we're going to be going on to our next segment.
Sales mythology.
Good.
All right. This is the segment where we demystify common myths within the sales industry. All right. Y'all ready for this? The first sales myth is you should be after known problems only. Keenan, why don't you start us off?
I don't know why this is a myth. Like, I wonder who the idiot says this is like people believe this shit.
Yeah.
Right? The whole point of selling is finding problems, number one. But the best sellers help buyers understand all the problems that exist. And if you think that the buyer knows everything and you're just going to stop once you uncover what they already know, where's your value as a salesperson? Right? Like, my favorite salespeople, when I go into, like, say, Home Depot, and I'm like, hey, I'm going to make this shit up. But I'm like, hey, do you have that adhesive tape stuff that sticks on the wall? Yeah, sure. Let me show you where it is. And he walks me over. So what are you trying to hang? Oh, I'm trying to hang some shelves for my kids. Oh, really? In your kids' rooms? Yes. What are they going to put on the shelves? And I think my daughter wants to put some her trophies. I think she'll put a couple of pots, plants. And I'm like, and he's like, look, you don't want to use this. I'm like, why? He goes, it won't hold it. So you'll put it up there, it might hold for a day or two, but then she'll be sleeping, and that shelf will come down if it's over her bed, and all that stuff will fall on her bed. I'm like, oh shit, what should I use? And he's like, I would recommend nails or this or that. I'm like, oh, thank you. So I love those people because they did a better understanding of trying to figure out what was wrong, what wasn't working, where it was going, and then make better solutions. So yeah, man, no, I ain't got no patience for people who think you just find the problem because you just sell them what they want, and then you sell them the wrong shit all the time.
What do you think, Becc?
I think that what he's saying is dead on. The difference with this podcast and the normal podcast is he could do something about it if I were to say something mean.
I don't think there's anything mean.
So, but I think by and large, I don't see the difference between a marketer and an SDR, for instance, if they're going after known problems only. Like if I'm like, hey, so I work with sales leaders who run into, who are running into this problem, like essentially there's no difference between that and a marketer. A marketer is supposed to attract demand that already exists in the market of like, they already know they have a problem. They don't know that they can necessarily solve it with you and how quickly they can.
Mm-hmm.
But I would be after what you said was really smart about, that's how you build credibility. That's your only value as a salesperson is finding things and telling them things and getting them to places where they didn't know before you existed. Other than that, I don't need you as a salesperson. So it's like, I see most people going after the like pain related sale, for instance. Well, it's like pain they already know about because they're already experiencing it. But I'm like, the people that I trust are the people that tell me things that I don't know. So like Min's a great example.
Min's the best example.
I remember we were like talking about, you came up with a couple different avenues. You were like, so are you doing this and are you doing this and are you doing this? And you're like, did you know that if you create these 3 TikTok accounts and that if you load these shorts at this point, X, Y, and Z, and like it made me trust you as an expert that you knew more about the situation than I knew about the situation. So I'm like, that's when it makes me happy to pay someone to be involved is whenever you have information that I don't know. Yeah. So I feel like unknown problems are going to be the gold mine in terms of winning credibility and rapport in the selling process.
Unknown problems bring diversity of thought to the table.
Yes.
And diversity of thought is how you win. If your organization is only leveraging its own internal thought and awareness and knowledge, then their ability to solve the problem in creative ways or even recognize the problem exists is stunted. So no, stop trying to look for just the problem that exists. Try to find every problem that could be there.
Yeah. I think people even struggle with just problems at all.
Yeah. Well, that's a different conversation.
But certainly known problems.
We saw that last night in Boston and in New York.
It bottlenecks you. It bottlenecks you to whatever they want to solve, which is probably like 20% of what you could be solving for net.
Yes, I like how she put it. It bottlenecks you.
It does, because it's like anytime that I'm hunting for a problem, it's like when I find a problem, then I find a higher potential likelihood of sale or an additional sale. So it's like, that's why I'm problem hunting. Yeah.
And every time you find more problems, you expand the gap, particularly more problems that your product sells. So rather than finding 8 problems for 8 different products, if you find more and more problems that exist that your product's going to address over time, then the gap becomes bigger, and the bigger the gap is, the higher the probability of close.
Totally.
Okay, on to the next myth, which
and is... I keep second a race today.
He did. He did it and he did.
He didn't and he did. What are you talking about?
No, I was really confused. That was something I didn't know. I mean, I thought he was a little bit older.
I'm 54 years old. I
thought, I'm like, I got this, no problem. I'm like, I played soccer, and then he was trying to get around to the bus, and he got around me.
I was breaking ankles.
I didn't know.
Breaking ankles?
Yeah, and I was collecting ankles and got on the bus.
Okay, on to the next myth.
I don't know if I can go on.
Yeah, the next myth is old people.
Which is SDR results. SDR results are all about qualitatively getting better. Becc, why don't you start this off for us?
Yeah, so especially, and I like how the myth is SDR. So SDR is going to be specifically much more of a science than it is an art form. And the reason being is I think that the myth is the only way that I can improve my numbers is I need to get better at objection handling or better at qualitatively writing my emails. And the fact is that there's a lot of unknown problems that SDRs run into that they don't realize they're running into. So I'll give you a couple of examples and I'm going to pass to Keenan. One of the biggest problems in the industry that I've recently been, light was shed on it for me is email deliverability. Of like, on average, 35% of emails aren't even hitting the person's inbox. So when I hear people talk about how do I get better open rates, I'm like, well, number one, open rates aren't necessarily the keys to the kingdom. But number two, people are always thinking about what subject line is the best subject line to get email opens. So it's like, but email deliverability, if 35% of them aren't even hitting, it has nothing to do with the subject line.
You learned a little bit from Guillaume this week, didn't you?
Or another one is connection rates. Like people are making, I think Topo and Bridge Group put out some stats that basically people, a full-time prospector is going to make 40 dials, which yields 4 connects per day. And so people are still thinking about, how do I handle this objection on the phone? I'm like, time out. I would focus on, how do I increase my connects?
Yeah, 4 connections ain't going to help me.
So it's like, okay, so, and most people wouldn't think of it. It's not that they don't think of it at all. It's that they don't spend the time that I think is necessary. Of all the stats that I've seen is going to be Wednesday, Thursday, Friday afternoon, best connect rates. Mm-hmm. So I had teams shift from, like, don't change anything about your qualitative right now. Like, we'll get to that in the training. But just shift the time that you're making the dials to Friday afternoon. And they saw 4x more results overnight. Because
you're getting in front of more people.
Right. Mm-hmm. So it's like, I think that people err towards qualitative because they think it's the thing that they can control. But there are a lot of more pieces to the pie than qualitative, in my opinion. Go ahead.
I forget what the myth was.
That it's SDRs getting better is all about qualitative improvement.
Oh, no. And I'm going to butcher this, but I'm going to steal what my man Guillaume said last night. It was so good. He said too many people focus on the outcomes when they should be focused on, what did he call it?
Outputs.
Output, yes. So I liken it to Carol Dweck's growth mindset versus performance mindset, right? So no, it's not SDRs, particularly SDRs, when normally getting into sales for the very first time. They don't have a lot of experience and history in sales. I believe that the whole thing that SDRs should be focused on isn't their output and the qualitative methods. It should be their messaging, their behaviors, their drive, their outputs. What am I doing? How am I learning to shift and react to a shitty person who answers the phone? How am I shifting and changing my copy and my emails? How well am I writing those? Like, that's where all the growth should come from, so that at the end of, let's say, 2 or 3 years, whether their outputs are up or down, you look at an email they wrote the first time on day 1 or day month 2, 3, or 4, then you look at emails they're writing now. You watch some of the videos when they first started this in the first couple of months. Now you watch them 2 years later. And if you're seeing discernible difference in growth, that's what they should be measured on, because eventually that shit will pay off in outputs.
Yeah, the other one to tack onto that is I don't think people think about buyer selection enough of who is the right buyer persona that occurs the problem, or the right type of company. Every single time I see people, and SDRs unfortunately are responsible for TAM selection in a lot of cases, or at least how do they prioritize them. But I have never seen a company select companies in regards to what kind of companies would run into the problem in the level of aggression that we solve for. They just think about, like, head count, potential, sale. But anyhow. I'm not getting buzzed when I'm in person with Keenan. I'm not going to take that blow.
In Dallas? I have to bring the siren. What are you talking about?
Somehow he got around me to the bus. I can't take more blows than that.
You understand? I literally, here's the bus, here's her, and here's me.
Why don't you tell LinkedIn why
I broke her ankles?
Why don't you tell LinkedIn, who's sitting here right now, why I was chasing you to begin with?
Well, it's going to make the story that much more fun.
What did you do to me, Keenan, that made me chase you?
She's a runner, and obviously she can't go get her 12 miles in 15 minutes today. So she was jogging in front of some giant truck stop back and forth in the sidewalk area. So I walked out of the little quickie store, and she had just passed me, and I could tell she saw out of the corner of my eye that I came out. And so I was like, "Ooh, this is going to be fun." It was a big, huge column. And so as she ran past me, I quickly ran to the column behind her and then hid there. And when she turned around to jog back, I jumped out and scared the shit out of her.
That's why. So not only did I get the poop scared out of me, but then I had to find out after I got scared that
I'm still young at heart.
He's like, he's got 18 years on me, y'all. It was a humbling moment for me.
I was breaking ankles.
Age is for humbling.
I think, Keenan, you might be older than me and Becc combined, I swear.
Oh,
that's something I didn't know. Very good job.
No, because he's 23 or something. No.
I am a very young 21,
Almost so. Wait, how old are you?
So,
36?
so that's 57. So
Almost.
you're close.
Almost.
Wow. But I'm still faster than both of you. So what do you say to that?
If I were the audience right now, this would be my favorite podcast that we've done
Well, you know,
because I'm like, I'm letting the hair down.
I'm not gonna tell the audience what their favorite should be.
This needs to be your favorite if you're tuning in.
Okay, on to the next segment, which is
Take it or leave it.
this is the segment where
or achieve it if you're fucking.
Take it or keep it.
or TV. Yeah. Well, this is the segment where I introduce common sales tactics, and Becc and Keenan let us know whether they would take it, leave it, or teave it. All right, so the first one, sales is a numbers game. Becc, take it or leave it.
Teave it. I have to teave it. There's two sides to it. Old school says it's all a numbers game. Just dial. New school says it's nothing about numbers. It's all about personalization and high quality and good juju. I think it's both. I think you need to think about the numbers. If I send a really personalized email, that's great. If I don't send enough of them, I'm not going to get to my results. So I think to some degree, it is a numbers game. So I'm going to ding in with a uncharacteristic T-bit. Keenan, what about you?
Uncharacteristic.
Uncharacteristic.
I want to look that
There's
word
a whole
up.
new Becc on this bus.
I think that's called sarcasm.
I'm like loosening my control. I'm getting better.
Dude, I lost my bench. She's not loosening any control. None whatsoever. So now, to properly help the audience understand what uncharacteristic means, I am going to show you. I'm going to tease it. That's uncharacteristic. I pick a side. And this one,
I like you a little bit more than I
and
did
this one
5
I
seconds
absolutely,
ago.
completely, 100% and utterly agree with Becc. Right? Look, you cannot achieve any set of goals without measuring and monitoring progress. And so whether that's numbers or whether that's events or whether that's whatever, you have to measure. In sales, you're responsible for a number. So to measure to whether or not you're getting to that number, you have to evaluate the numbers. And my kid, let's say my kid's training, I will measure that by how quickly could they get a cork, or how quickly could they get to the back, or how quickly could they, do this. So you're still going to measure the progress. So, but then at the same token, you have to you got to measure the watch this. You got to measure the progress, but you have to manage to the effort.
Yeah.
Right. And so you can't do them independently. If all you do is focus on the numbers, then you're fucked. And then if all you do is manage to the effort, but you don't know the numbers, you're still fucked.
I'll give you an example. If all you do is stare at the scale, it's not going to go anywhere. But if you don't stare at the scale after you do all this effort,
you don't know if it's going anywhere.
Right.
That was good.
You need both.
That was good. So yes, I'm with that one. I need both.
Okay, next one. Taking your buyer out to golf or fancy dinners to close the deal. Keenan, take it or leave it.
I can't just say leave it. I'm going to say fucking leave it. Just stop. Just fucking stop. Okay? Look, that's all. If you think that's your selling process, you're not a salesperson. You're a...
Wait, you don't think they should be relationship sellers?
No.
Just poking the bear, huh?
I know, but it's really fun because I can watch the reaction in person. I can watch the brain pop out on his head when I say stuff really dumb.
Leave it. Leave it all day long. Now, if you are friends, I talk about this in my training. If you by coincidentally happen to be friends with the person and you two love golfing, and you're like, oh wait, let's go golfing, then fucking do it.
Great.
But that's not selling. That's just gravy on top. And if that funnels down through the fucking filter system and makes your world better because they trust you first, they call you first, fantastic. But that is not part of your objective selling process and plan. Hell no. Give it up, old people who's still doing that shit. Millennials don't even know how to fucking golf, so don't worry about it.
Hey, Becc, take it or leave it. What are your thoughts? Oh, don't tell me. I think we went into another dead zone. Let me text them again. Make sure they didn't die or anything. A part of me wants to fill in the space with some cheesy jokes, but I'm not sure if it's a good idea. I'm gonna walk out. Let's see. In about 5 seconds, I expect them to come back up. But by the time they get back up, I might need to siren them already. Mm-hmm. Well, I guess in the meantime, I'm going to. Oh, y'all are back?
You missed.
Don't tell me.
Man.
Can you please repeat that again? Y'all are like.
Up to Lincoln Theater.
Oh, y'all are pulling up to Lincoln Theater?
Can you hear me now?
Yes, I could hear you perfectly well now.
So you missed a very special moment of we're pulling up to Lincoln Theater in Raleigh for the show tonight, and I said, Keenan, this gives me the feels, like this gives me nostalgia. And he said, why? I said, because outside Lincoln Theater last year is the first time that you sneezed, which is one of my top 3 favorite things about Keenan.
He's like a girl.
He does. He sneezes like a little old lady. He really does.
Oh God.
No disrespect to little ladies.
Masculine and everything I do.
Extreme, like just jettisons straight to little old woman and sneezes at the top of his lungs. Okay, so keep going. We got one more TVIT. How much time we have left?
we have zero. We have zero. I told the audience I was gonna siren you as soon as you got in.
Yeah, siren.
Okay.
I tried to fill up the space a little bit with some cheesy jokes. But
thank you.
On to the next segment, which is
the inbox.
It's time to take out the trusty mailbox. It is open for business.
Why could?
Okay. This is the segment where Becc and Keenan answer questions from our audience, and the first question is from Ian Hastings from Kansas City, Missouri. He says,
hello, Mr. Hastings.
Oh, yeah. Hello, Mr. Hastings. What do I do when the buyer is delusional about the state of their company? For example, one of my leads 100% believes that their sales department is doing great, but only 10% of their pipeline, including inbound, ends up closing by the end of the quarter. How do I fix this? Becc, you want to go first?
I do. I'm not sure how good the internet connection is, but well, my first question would be, well, is this an inbound or is this an outbound?
Stop us. Green.
Is this an inbound would be my first question, because if someone's coming to you and they're saying, hey, I really need some help, and then they're delusional, you know, I would just ask them the question of like, well, if you can help me understand, then why are you here? Like, why am I here? You know, and usually I think that there is some value to being really somewhat an adult ego state with your buyer of like, a lot of times whenever they're acting delusional, it's because it's really painful that they're in the state that they're in, and they don't want to take the ego blow. So I try to have the relationship with my buyer that they essentially feel comfortable enough opening up that information, because usually if you ask them that conversion rate, but if they are delusional into thinking, you know, like, hey, that this is a good conversion rate or bad conversion rate, like, you can't help someone who doesn't want to be helped. You shouldn't even want to, from my perspective, help someone who doesn't want to be helped. So if this is an outbound, I would say if they're convinced, then they're convinced. Maybe it's even for good reason. Like if they're past quota, but their conversion rate is low, they're past quota, so leave them alone. Like, it's not about the problems that you solve for. It's about the problems that you solve for that they're aware of and that they're agreeing with you is a problem to solve. So I'd say, you know, if they're delusional and they're, you know,
Keenan, what do you think?
Let them.
I think that no matter what it is, every opinion we make is based on someone's assessment of evidence.
Mm-hmm.
So your job as a salesperson, if someone is only as a 10% conversion, but they think everything is fine, then your ability to ask them, okay, at 10%, how much revenue is that generating for you? Right? Then you can ask them, how much is it costing you to generate that pipeline? So the remaining 90% of that pipeline, what happens to that? How big is the organization? So if all of a sudden I can spin out, say, all right, so if I understand this correctly, yes, to Beck's point, you're at quota at 105%. That's fantastic. But 10% is traditionally low across the entire industry, right? Sales industry. So, and you have, I'm making this up, 40 salespeople. So if all those 40 salespeople only at 10% on average, what would happen if those 40 salespeople only moved up 5 percentage points? Mm-hmm. So now instead of being at 105% a quota, you're at 145% a quota. And oh, by the way, that 5% represents, I'm doing shitty math right now, but represents $7 million. Mm-hmm. So can you walk me through why you think leaving $7 million on the table is okay?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Right. So I just ask questions to find objective data that then they have to themselves defend on why that's okay, or why their assessment that their sales team is doing great at 10%. So you just try to find the data to make them own it.
Now, in my sales class, we were going to go to a second question, but I don't think we have much time. In my sales class, we were talking a little bit about, not just decision makers, but decision influencers, right? And so what would you say you do if not particularly the person in charge, but someone with influence to the decision is delusional about the state? So the sales department, the leaders know that there's a problem, but one of the influencers for that decision thinks everything's okay and is going to stop the deal.
Well, I was going to jump in here with, I only have 19 seconds, but you can't change someone's mind that they should be solving something. You can disagree on the root cause, but if they think that not hitting quota is okay.
Yeah, if they think not hitting quota is okay, then
I don't know what you do.
You basically say you need a new person in that position. But to your point, you teach your buyer to gap sell to the other person. So if another person doesn't think there's a problem, you do the same thing. Hey, John, does Mary know that you're only at 10%? Does Mary know that 10% is costing you up to $7 million a year? Does Mary know? And the answer is yes. Then you come back with, then why the fuck does Mary think that's okay? Yeah. And if people think that's okay, get out. I don't want to be a jerk. But if people think it's okay to rob and steal, then trying to convince them to go to church ain't going to work. If people think it's okay to freaking snort drugs and they want to keep going, then there's nothing you can do. So if you get to that place where people think what they're doing is okay and they accept the data, then fuck it, move on.
All right.
You gave us extra time. That was nice.
That was nice.
Of course. I didn't want to cut you off in the middle of such gold content.
Always cut me off in the middle of gold content.
Sorry, Beck. Okay. On to the next segment, which is
the challenge.
This is the segment where Becc and Keenan break down a challenging subject within the sales industry. And today's challenge is how to build an effective sales sequence. Keenan, would you like to start us off?
Oh, that's all, Becc.
Oh, wait, you're deferring. You can't do that, remember?
Ooh. How many deferments have you had? Becc just did.
Doesn't feel so good, does it?
Talk about uncharacteristic, I swear.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Okay. So the challenge of building an effective sales sequence. So I'd say there's a number of things that go into it, but I think what's usually tasked for SDRs, intro-level reps, account executives, etc., is basically how to build a playbook from front to end that will make them effective, which is really hard when you're like 21 or 22 or
45.
Now even if you're 45.
Yeah, not when you're 55 though. That's easy.
Yeah, then it becomes a lot easier. Once you hit Keenan's age and Medicare kicks in, everything becomes
when milk was a nickel.
So I think that it's really tough to build a really strategic sequence. The tips that I would give is, and there's a number of different studies on this, but B.F. Skinner basically did some studies on intermittent reinforcement and what that can cause within someone. And what he did is he basically took 2 cohorts of rats, and one group of rats basically, and this was back in the 60s, they would hit a lever and every time get a treat and every time get the same treat. And then the second group of rats, basically, they would sometimes get a big treat, sometimes get a small treat, and sometimes get no treat at all. And he found that they were much more likely, I think it was 7 times more likely to hit the lever because of intermittent reinforcement. So point being, within a sequence, I think there are 2 schools of thought of how people build them. They either are usually really aggressive in the beginning in terms of the volume of messaging, or they're equidistant. They're like day 2, day 4, day 6, day 8, day 10. Both of which communicate to your buyer bad things, either that you're too much too quickly before they can get to know you, or that they're on a sequence in general, which they flip into child ego state and start to rebel. So I would, from a structure perspective, I would make sure it's always omni-channel. Usually I do 5 emails, across the sequence.
Don't tell me. Don't tell me. Let me text them one more time. Hold up. Okay, in the meantime, while they're trying to figure out their camera situation, earlier this podcast we were talking about, figuring out unknown problems as a vital part of selling. And Becc was saying how I was a perfect, or Becc and Keenan were talking about how I was a perfect example for that. So to give you context, whenever I got hired here, it was originally, just to figure out basic podcasts. They didn't really have a whole idea of what they wanted. But when I came in, and by the way, this is not like because I'm a genius or anything, but I just happened to read Gap Selling One and impress Keenan. Oh, y'all back?
That's Keenan. Yeah.
Hey, I was just saying the story about how I was hired and I was afraid that y'all wouldn't be able to come back. But
oh, it's all green.
It's all green now. Yes, 4 bars. I don't know what happened.
And we're just sitting here. We've been sitting here for 10 minutes. We're at the location. All right. Sorry. Keep going.
Okay. So sequence, where did you cut out? Beginning?
Cut out right in the middle of your talking about, with everyone wants a playbook, which is really hard for when you're, in your early 20s, but not when you're as old as Keenan, Yeah.
Men brought us right back. So this is what I would do for sequences in general. I would make them, and this is prescription at mass. So keep in mind, B2C is going to affect it. Is an inbound is going to affect it. But I'd say by and large, the 2 biggest mistakes you can make, 3 biggest mistakes you can make is only doing one channel. So I see people lean email because it's easier. You don't have the emotional blow of someone hanging up the phone on you. They're too aggressive in the beginning of the sequence, and then they peter off near the end, teaching their buyer if they just wait long enough, they'll basically go away, which is one thing their buyer wants. Or they're equidistant. They're like day 2, day 4, day 6, day 8, day 10, blah, blah, blah. And then it gets the buyer to feel like they're on a sequence or a cadence. And so they start to rebel because they feel like they're not special. So from a timing perspective, and MJ Hoffman, the author of Why You Now, basically did a lot of study on this. And I found it to be true, is to flip the level of aggression, that basically in the beginning of the sequence, you're easier. So your buyer has, time to get to know you, email on day 1, email on day 8, and then email on day 13. Like basically you should speed up near the back end of the sequence to give the aggression, like on the latter end. Usually you're going to see most decision makers, you're going to see conversion at 2 spots, the first and second email, and then the last email. But usually the last email is where you're going to see decision makers like respond, because they've been tracking you throughout the journey because they want to see they're curious to see what you're going to do, but they want to see you earn it over time. So I'm going to defer to you now. I have one more rule in my head about sequences.
Everything Becc said. I don't know how to operationalize this because it's what I would do as an individual. And I keep saying I'm going to go in and do this at my company, but I don't because I got to let people do their jobs. But to me, the piece of the sequence we haven't touched is the messaging and which problems are you going to attach to? How well do you know the problems and how they manifest themselves in an organization, and which problems are they most inclined to respond to, and which problems irritate, or think about the thorn in the lion's paw, like of all the things that's going on in the lion's life, the flies buzzing around their head, or or the hot sun. If you know what the freaking thorn in their paw is, you can start asking about that right away. So really knowing which problems you want to dig into, and then understanding how they manifest themselves, so that you can start do a sequence that says, hey, did your team lose to the status quo? According to Gartner, 60% of teams lose the status quo. Right. And if so, if you can solve that, we can solve that. And then I'll get back to you. Then the next one is, let me give you the 4 reasons why you lose to the status quo. Is your team doing any of these? Boom, boom, boom. They're doing it. That's why you lose to the status quo. If you can bring them on a journey that helps them diagnose their problems in your sequence over time, and all you're asking for is time to show them or to talk to them why, or to dig into why those problems exist and how you can solve them. That's all you're asking for. I think that's really where people fall down. They just look at all the emails we've read. Look at them all. Have any of them done anything, anytime, to uncover or challenge me to think about a problem that I'm currently having that I would solve? The answer is none. 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 So there's nothing to talk about.
Something to add into that is that up my game to a new level is usually the data will show you that the middle emails are the lowest conversion. I would focus on one problem per email.
And I disagree with that one. Sorry, but keep going.
Okay. Well,
no, keep going. I mean, that's the whole point of debate, but keep going.
So basically, I would focus on one business problem per email. And each email should be complete in and of itself. But also, if I were to read each email across the 5, each one of them should be different. Right. They should be different. So for me, I'm trying to optimize for viewers who are only viewing one email, but then someone who's also reading all 5 emails, that they get a different piece of value in each separate email. So I think the thing that people are missing about emails or sequences in general is basically, are we moving?
We're moving. The bus just got bigger. Look at that. It's getting bigger. We're moving. Oh, my God.
Interesting.
Look at all this room we're getting in here and now. There's a mirror, a new mirror. Oh, it's it's a dance party. Okay, sorry. Keep going. Wow, that's awesome.
I don't remember.
They're inside a transformer, I swear.
But I would try to optimize for both readers. Sometimes you're going to have a reader who just reads that email, and sometimes you're going to have a reader who reads all 5 emails. So I think that there should be a different piece of value of, if they don't know anything different about themselves or about the industry, or statistically speaking, after they read the email, there is no value in them reading the email. So I'd focus on that in each email.
Okay, on to our last segment, which is the rants. This is basically the segment where Becc and Keenan give us their closing thoughts. Let me change the format real quick. Okay, perfect. Keenan, what is your rant for today?
Okay. I know that in the, I think it's the Equal Rights, not amendment because that's for women, but the I forget what it's called. Shame on me, I usually know this stuff, where it says, you can't discriminate on race, color, creed, age, sexual orientation, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah, civil rights?
Right? Yeah, but that thing that lists them, right? So, okay, yeah, maybe it was the Civil Rights Act. I can remember that was included all of that. But anyway, you know what I'm talking about, right? Right? Mm-hmm. So in that is age. And my rant is this. I agree we shouldn't do that. But if I have an ism, it's ageism. And that is because I believe that if the reason people move away from hiring old people as you get older and older. They discriminate against you in the workplace is because you've chosen to let yourself get old. You've chosen to be rigid and not be open to new ideas and holding on to the past and holding on to old projects, and you don't move with the times. That's a choice. That's a choice. Just because you're 55 years old or 65 years old or 70 years old does not mean that you don't know how to work an iPhone. Because when you were younger, you're the one teaching your grandpa how to turn the fucking TV on. So just because you get old, it's a choice to stop adopting technology. It's a choice to stop paying attention to trends. It's a choice to stop or to ignore, even attack new things that come out. And so I'm like, yo, I'm not okay with that. That's a choice. So if you get all upset because people are like, oh, I can't get a job, or people are ignoring me because I'm older than being ageist. No, you've created an environment that makes you look out of touch. And people don't trust that people out of touch can deliver. And the fact that I've been doing this 40 years, I can bring so much more to the table. Yeah, you probably can, but not if you can't bring that 40 years experience in a 2022 fucking rapper. And I'm not talking about music, right? The whole point is, my rant is, listen, I'm 55 years old in April. Okay, people, the last thing I'm worried about in my life, if I have to go back into the workplace, is people aren't going to be hiring me because I'm too old. Like that's the last thing I'm worried about. So fix your mentality. Stop being rigid. Stop attacking new things. Stop putting it in terms of Gen X and Boomer versus Millennial and Gen Z. Stop thinking that your experience in 25 years is somehow some super holy grail and everybody else is subservient to you. Fucking open up. Okay, open back up. Start looking at the world like you were a kid and start acting like the world is new every day, just like it was when you were 10, 20, 30, and even early 40s, because it is new every day, and you don't get to harden because you think you've seen it all, because you're only hurting yourself.
All right, Becc, what is your rant for today?
Sorry, keep going.
Title 7.
Okay, it could be Title 7.
Title
Okay.
7 is what it's called.
Thank you.
Title 7, it's race, gender, natural origin, religion. There's
Creed.
Anyhow.
Employment discrimination
Yeah,
from the Civil Rights Act of 1964.
Yeah.
Well done, my young brother. Yes, and it's discrimination based on race, color, religion, sex, and national origins. Age isn't even in it.
Yeah,
Age isn't even in it. So you're not even protected, motherfuckers.
Age is, that's what's
You're not even protected, so you better stay young.
You are protected. It's outside of Title 7. It's the ADEA protects over 40, though, only.
I'm over 40.
So,
So I'm not going to do anything. I'm just going to be stuck. You have to
so,
keep me on my job. I can't fire myself.
You can't hire a fire under the ADEA if based on ageism over 40, but you can prior to 40. Okay. So I could hire a fire for being too young. But anywho,
okay.
Y'all will have to fact check on me. My rant is on, and true to form, my rants are always going to be on sales topics usually.
Come on,
but my rant is, I saw a post on LinkedIn where someone was talking about, and put this person aside. They were talking about, they said, the reason that you shouldn't sell based on need is that you won't be able to competitively differentiate. And while I agree with the person, and they went into a rant of basically like, okay, because you competitive differentiate based on features and you won't be able to do that effectively. And it changed something in me reading that, because I understood that this person is relatively credible, and this person was focusing on the reason you shouldn't sell based on need is because of how it would affect or impact the seller's ability to sell. Not the reason that you shouldn't sell based on need is because the buyer might be incorrect in what they are basically diagnosing.
Why does that make you so mad, Becc? Why does it make you so mad?
Because
show me the passion. This is a rant. Show me the passion.
It's a litmus test to me. It's a litmus test to me that basically sellers and the sales industry is after me, and they're trying to deploy techniques of how do I be more human or more kind or more empathetic to get my buyer to open up, when the entire sale is always still about the seller and not the buyer. So I think that we have a falsely rose-colored glasses about who we are as sellers. People are like, well, sellers aren't bad people, and we're not after necessarily all these bad things. And I'm like, from what I see, if this is any litmus test, and this is someone who's very prevalent in the industry, like has a lot of integrity in terms of, their commitment to the craft. And I'm like, and this person's very well known. And I'm like, and they are just marking to me that basically we are still in a spot where all we focus on is our freaking selves. Like all we focus on is how that impacts my ability to sell or my ability to hit quota.
That makes you mad.
Nothing to do with my buyer. It has nothing to do with this person didn't even consider that it impacts the buyer in a negative way. All this person was considering is how it impacted her ability to sell.
Yes.
And I'm like, that shows me a litmus test that we are still 1000% focused on us. And it has nothing to do with our buyer. And so I think this is a challenge to, myself included, but everyone in the sales industry. Like, if you're going to be about just pushing more quota, that's fine, but at least know where you're at and at least admit it and quit pretending like it's about the buyer. Or you can make some type of movement to reinvigorate your mind to understand that it should be about the buyer and what does the buyer need to solve and what are the litmus tests of those problems and being after that in the room. But until you do that, at least stop hitting me with the be human, be kind, be empathetic, hard stop crap. Just realize that you're still after you, whatever framework you put on that. That's my rant.
Get mad, Becc.
I am mad.
I can tell. I'm frightened.
Well, hey, thank y'all for doing this podcast on the tour bus. I know that the internet was pretty bad.
Thank you, man. All right, everybody, we thank you for your efforts and hanging in there with us. This is Keenan from top to bottom.
And this is Becc. See you next week.